Now, and firstly, congratulations on
Thank
a
you.
much awaited MOU signing. It's been in the works for a while, almost 2.5 years. Let me start off by asking you first about your partner in this 50-50 JV, that's Thyssenkrupp. What are some of the main cultural and strategic synergies that you saw in Thyssenkrupp before you decided eventually that this is the right partner to have in Europe?
So I think if you look at Thyssenkrupp as a company, it's quite a conglomerate actually in terms of having businesses not only in steel but in many other sectors. And it's an institution which is 150 years old. It's had a very rich legacy in the global steel industry as well as in other sectors. And I think we share a very clear alignment in terms of value systems. So I think as a Tata Group company, as a Tata Steel, we have always worked with good partners who believe in the long-term interest of the business and industry.
Sure.
And I think as a group, all of us, right from the senior leadership to the working team, have always found Thyssenkrupp as the company who could be a very good partner to Tata Steel and to Tata Steel Europe. And that's been one of the main attraction in terms of us talking together. And I would feel that it's mutual. And therefore, we've been at it for a long time and trying to shape an institution which will be sustainable for the future.
Right, Koushik, now that we have the synergies in place, there's one thing that the markets are really curious about, and that is, of course, the entire deleveraging of the consolidated balance sheet. What will be the benefit as far as that is concerned, and could you quantify the figure?
So I think from a term debt perspective, which is the most critical part, we will be putting about 2.5 billion euros of term debt. But before that, I think the philosophy is also important. And that philosophy is to create a capital structure which can sustain itself, which is matched with the cash flows of the company, which can provide a financial independence to the joint venture and ensure that it has the ability to invest appropriately, it has the ability to sustain any volatility in the markets and the cyclicality of the steel industry, etc. So I think that was the philosophy, and therefore we consciously, and when I say we, it's both the shareholders, consciously agreed to create a sustainable framework for this joint venture which can look at its path ahead in terms of creating value. It is in that framework, because we had agreed for a non-cash transaction.
Sure.
There was a contribution of debt and liabilities into the joint venture, and we have taken extreme care as the shareholders of the proposed JV to put in such amount of debt and liabilities which it can service with its earnings and cash flows. And from a Tata Steel Europe perspective, we have about 2.5 billion euros of debt that will move in, which is part of the existing long-term debt in the company.
Right.
And from Thyssenkrupp's perspective, they would be looking at steel-related pension liabilities and some of the legacy liabilities of the steel business. So, two taken together, we would be looking at a gross level somewhere around 6.5, depending on where the closing happens on the steel.
Right, that's the figure I was looking for.
Yeah.
Now, Koushik, in any big transaction or combination or JV of this size, scale and magnitude, there are bound to be overlaps. And when I say overlaps, I mean overlaps in terms of job roles, in terms of functions,
yes,
in terms of employees. Now, we all know that the entire phase of the talks between Tata Steel and Thyssenkrupp has, of course, faced resistance at various levels from the workers' union. How would you assuage the fears of analysts as well as shareholders regarding the inevitability of job?
So I think we have made a clear intent as shareholders that the upstream hubs and businesses of the joint venture across the three main hubs IJmuiden, Duisburg, and Port Talbot will continue in the current asset configuration.
All right.
And that is very important, not only for from a job and employment perspective, but also from the strategic objective of being appropriately configured for the market and for the customers, and for the kind of products that we are looking to make and sell in that geography. So that philosophy is important, and we made it right up front. The second element is to also mention that the fact that we have taken enough care to continue to have engagements with all stakeholders,
Sure.
Including our colleagues in the union across all geographies.
Can you rule out job cuts at this stage?
No, I'll come to that point.
Yeah.
To say that we are not building this or creating this joint venture on job losses and job cuts. That's not the philosophy. The industrial logic is the driving force of this joint venture. So one should first of all kind of calm down on that understanding.
All right.
The second thing that you asked on job losses, when two organizations which are in the same geography combine, there are indeed overlaps, and there are indeed duplication, and we need to look at what are those duplications, how we can drive efficiency, what is the form in which we can drive efficiency, and so on. So that will result once the new joint venture is formed, and that joint venture management team has to take into account the local commitments that we have in each of these sites, and the way in which we need to still drive value.
So it's a job in progress.
So it's a job in progress.
Yeah.
So it will emerge and it will happen. As I often say that in Jamshedpur, since the mid-90s, we have been reducing average 1,000 people every year. At a peak, it was much more. But even now, as we are growing, because it's a part of an efficiency drive.
Probably you'll be in a better position to answer this question at a later stage when the definitive agreements have been signed.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's a question of when you're looking at efficiencies, productivities, these are, in the world moving towards automation and so on. So this is part of that overall strategy. But do it in a manner which is befitting a joint venture between companies like Tata Steel and Thyssen. Do it in a manner that we've always done, in a responsible manner, taking everybody along. So I think that it's not the headline based on which this joint venture is created. This headline is about industrial concept and industrial strategy.
Right, I get the drift, Koushik. Now, give us a sense of the capital structure of this proposed 50-50 JV. Who's going to run it? What will be the management framework? Could you throw some light on that? And have you chosen anyone to spearhead the JV as yet? Or is that something that is also work in progress?
No, the management, the governance structure of this joint venture is clearly a two-tier governance structure. As is in most cases, as you know, that we mentioned that the company's headquarters will be in the Amsterdam area in Netherlands. In that part of the world, we normally see a two-tier board governance, which is the supervisory board, which in this case will be represented by the shareholders, and we are going to look at a management board, which will be responsible for running the company. And any company runs on the principle of the best man for the job. So why should this be different? And both companies have significant talented people who are currently running this company, and we will discuss this issue as we move forward.
Now, the official statement also speaks about the cost efficiencies, the synergies of around 400 to 600 million euros.
Yes.
Give us a sense, Koushik, of when do you see that being reflected, A, and also if you could give us a sense of which departments or areas do you see these energies being reflected in the days to come?
So I think if I look at the areas, it is those areas where you have either an efficiency drive, areas where there are duplications and overlaps, areas where you can drive economies of scale, areas which creates a better approach to the market, and where you have better processes and systems, for example, IT. So there are multiple small and big areas where we have to get into the nitty-gritties. As I mentioned, it is the initial estimates. We are looking at public data, and we are looking at data that can be exchanged or shared under the antitrust issues, because we are still competitors in the same geography.
That's right.
So this will be crafted, as we go along. It will be part of the joint business plan of the company, and when the new management structure is in place, when the new leadership of this company takes the control, that has to fit in as part of the joint business plan, and there has to be a timeline during which this will be realized. You can ask me an estimate, it will be about 3 years or thereabouts, but we have to get into the details, because this is not about headlines, it's about how do you implement that.
My job is to search for a headline, and I'll keep pursuing that. How confident are you of the combined business of Thyssenkrupp and Tata Steel? You mentioned in the official statement that they're looking at the combined entity being in a far better position to take on some of the structural challenges that the European steel industry poses. How confident are you of that, and what are some of these structural challenges that still are bothering players like you, leading players like you in Europe? Now you'll become number 2 after this, a clear number 2 after this comes into fruition.
Yeah, so I think the European steel industry is not growing in the manner in which we see in India. It is a more mature industry, unless there are some very significant triggers for investments and consumption and so on. It is more a value-driven industry rather than a volume-driven industry, because you have more enriched products being made in Europe, whether it is automotive, whether it is in engineering, in packaging, and so on. So it is it's not the capacity that only matters, but what you produce within that capacity that also matters. So I think the consolidation of the number 2 and number 3 to create a very strong number 2 obviously ensures that the approach to the market, the route to the market, the products that is offered to customers, the value and service to the customers are of a very different scale. And one then ensures that there is a significant amount of capability that comes in the company with the combination of 2 such enterprises. And that's important, and that's what I think addresses many of the challenges in the industry, because I think this consolidation is not only about Tata Steel Europe and Thyssen Steel Europe, it's also about the industry, because the configuration of the industry also changes.
One can't talk about the European steel industry and not mention the number 1 player, that's ArcelorMittal.
Yeah.
Now, both of you have joined, you're clear number 2, there's a distant number 3. What is the different proposition that you will offer to your customers, and how confident are you of the combined operations taking on ArcelorMittal, which is a formidable number 1?
So I think from our strategic focus perspective, we've said that we will be focused on innovation, focused on quality and technology leadership and cost leadership. So our premise remains the same in terms of being more focused in terms of what we provide to the customers. Obviously, it's a much richer bouquet to offer. The service and the quality improves from both angles, both sides, and we have the ability to meet the customer requirements on a more broader bouquet of products. So I think that has value, and the fact that we have a back-end R&D which is very strong between IJmuiden and Duisburg in particular, apart from the fact that we do have also a meaningful and a significant R&D across UK, especially with some of the academic collaborations. I think we have a very good positioning, which is spread in the Europe, which is therefore it's more pan-European, but also has the ability to structurally compete better. Our IJmuiden site has very strong structural advantages, being on the port and the harbour, and there are cost advantages. So from a cost leadership point of view, it is in a good position. and you can see the results in the last few quarters, and that we are taking the performance level to the next position, and therefore I think we are very well placed as a combination.